We're not trying to preempt proceedings with regards to investigations on the unfortunate incident involving the Associated Airline crash here in Lagos. Joining us to look at some other issues surrounding that, especially airworthiness and air safety, is the Chief Pilot of Associated Airlines, Captain Mohammed Badamosi. Good morning, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Well, we'll commiserate with the Associated Airlines as well as the families of those who lost their loved ones in that unfortunate incident. But a whole lot of Nigerians will be asking the question that popped up on that day. How come we never knew Associated was still in operation until that incident occurred?
In fact, Associated Airlines had a change of management. And as a result of change of management, there were a lot of investments that the new management had to put into the continued operation of the airline. It involved a lot of money, up to dollars, two figures, in millions. And the airline was just coming up when this happened. So that was why the airline has been not been flying for some times. And the NCA will agree with us that we put all efforts and money into bringing up the airline, because the previous management had a lot of problem trying to make the airline survive. And the new management came in not knowing fully the level of decadence in that airline. And in an effort to ensure that the airline comes up again, a lot of money had to be pumped into the airline. And we're just about to start operation, because operation has not started fully. If you look at the itineraries of the airline, you find that we have not only one fleet like some other airlines. We have a Boeing 727 fleet, the Embraer 145 fleet, the Embraer 120 fleet, we have the HS 125, and then we have the Beechcraft. Let me use the correct name, Beechcraft. So the three of these fleets were being managed by the former owners. And many of the aircraft were kept on ground. And when the airline was to be sold, we had somebody who came in between and said, okay, this airline is good enough to be purchased. And the new owner went into it. But at the time we got there, we found that the state of the airline needed a lot of investment put into it.
So if we understand you correctly, new owners have taken over. When did they take over the airline?
I cannot give you the exact date, because I joined after the airline was...
What about the month?
No, that's what I'm saying. I cannot give you the date now. But I think I can say that it was in 2011 that the new owners took over the airline.
2011. Before then, Associated Airline had been in some financial trouble.
Yes.
And then the new owners took over, pumped in some money into it,
not
as you
knowing.
said. Not knowing the state.
Exactly, financial and, the state of the airline itself.
But what that also meant is that they took over the planes as well. I mean, the entire fleet that they saw, they took them over. I mean, regardless of...
Exactly. You know, when you are buying an airline,
yes,
you look at the whole equipment in the airline, all right, and then you'll be able to say, this is how much you're going to pay for it. But like I said, there was a middleman who came in and said the airline was good enough to be purchased. And at the time, the new management came in and made assessment of the equipment they have, they discover that a lot of money had to be pumped in.
You know where I want to come in now is as we go into airworthiness and air safety, but I still would want to relate it to a car. Perhaps a whole lot of Nigerians should be able to get a picture. When you park a car for too long and you finally say you want to get it on the road, you have to spend a whole lot of money. I'm sure you're telling us that it involved a whole lot of money to bring these airlines back in the air. Did this also include the safety and airworthy procedures?
Yes. Let me use the case of a human being. You know, as a human being, we are not created the same. I'm just going to give a scenario of, you know, different aircraft. Aircraft are built by manufacturers from different countries. Some of these aircraft that are manufactured, some of them have good histories. I'll give you an example of the Boeing aircraft. In the past, if you look at the history of the Boeing aircraft, because of the ruggedness of these aircraft and the cost of maintenance, which is very low, a lot of companies were operating these aircraft. And there are new manufacturers like the Embraer, the new entrant, you know, they just came into existence just some few years ago. So the act of building aeroplane is still, with, you know, not as high as other airlines like Boeing and Airbus. Now, talking about parking an aircraft on ground for a long time, we have different system of, different categories of maintenance. If you keep an aircraft on ground for a long time, what you are going to look for actually is corrosion. Because when you have rain and sun beating the aircraft, there is a tendency to have corrosion. So this is what actually you look for parking an aircraft for a long time. Then when you park it for a long time, you have to undergo some maintenance series. You have what's, like you had the Director General said on the air on one of the television stations, we have A check, B check, C check, and D check. All these checks have been carried out for those aircraft that were on ground for such a period of time. And the process was carried out. And apart from the company involved in carrying out this process, we have NCA inspecting every day as the engineers were working on the aircraft. So the process is a process that is not only left for the airline to, to undertake. So keeping anchor on the ground, you go through all the maintenance you're supposed to have on the aircraft, and it's certified by NCA that everything is okay.
Which the D check is the overall check. That's the big check on the
yes, in which the aircraft is stripped, in such a way as if you are just building the aircraft anew.
And the A check has to do with your hours of flight.
Actually, A check, whether you fly or not, you have to do it. It's like a weekly check, then you have a monthly check, then you have the annual check. The annual check is the one you call C check, in which the aircraft is semi-stripped, and everything inside and outside the aircraft is checked.
When the new management took over the airlines, the associated, did they do any of these checks, like a D check, an overhaul of the crafts they saw on ground?
You mean before buying the airline?
Before buying the airline, and even after buying the airline?
No, after buying the airline, that was when it was discovered that a lot of money and a lot of some aircraft were still flying when the airline was bought, like the 727 and the Embraer were flying. But if you look at, you have a fleet of 10 aircraft.
Okay.
And you are buying a fleet of 10 aircraft, you expect to have something, I mean, like maybe 70% of that, I mean, the services you require. But when you get there and you find out, okay, you have just after paying this money, you only have about 40%.
So when they took over, you had 40%, that's what you're saying they had?
Yes, about 40%.
About 40%. Of that 40%, did the management do a check, a practical overhaul?
Yes.
To what extent?
Like I said, aircraft is due for a particular check at a particular period. You have the A check, you have the B check.
To what extent did they do these checks?
When you say extent, are you talking about A, B, C?
A, B, C. Did they do up to the D checks?
No, you don't do D check easily. D check goes like about after 20 years.
Okay.
Okay?
So, you know, for an aircraft that has
yes.
for an aircraft that has been parked for a while, you know, according to you, that could possibly be corroded in certain parts, shouldn't we be looking at a D check?
No, no, no. They have instrument to check that. It's like a scanner. Okay? You take it to all parts of the aircraft, and if there's a corrosion, you will see it's there. And when the corrosion is there, in fact, before NCA comes to inspect the aircraft, you, the owner of the airline, has to take care of that.
Now, we're told that this particular plane, the one that crashed, had a certificate of airworthiness that would expire, should expire in October, so it was still okay to fly.
Yes.
The question would be, how many flights had he made before that particular, before the fatal crash landing?
It has made 3 flights.
3 flights?
Yeah.
Within the week?
No, it's not within the week. You don't, you see, when you have, you have airplane meant for charter, you may not have flight for 2 months. You may not have flight for 3 months. If you go to Abuja, you'll see fleet of about 30 aircraft parked on the wrong way there. I'll tell you that some of them have not flown for 2 months, 3 months. But that is not the issue. You see, as an engineer, your license is at stake. You have to ensure that the aeroplane is airworthy. Then, what of the pilot? The pilot who is going to accept the aeroplane. He starts the engine, he checks everything. Before starting the engine, he goes through all the, what we call the technical record, and see if there are, defects that have not been taken care of.
More like a checklist?
Yes, in fact, everything is there. You see, it's not like a car where you just, in the morning, you just go in and start your car. No. Somebody has to certify that the aircraft is serviceable. Then you, as the pilot, you're not going to